Welcome to We Zombie City Tours. Advanced civilizations used to live where you live. The evidence is all around us, hidden in plain sight. Our ancestors were pyramid builders, experts at transporting and building with heavy stone, aka masonry. Their faces and their logos are engraved in stone all over our cities, and their pyramids still surround us. Now here's some more ridiculous claims. There's a single God that created you, me, the world, and all things in it, and he created a specific location of land that he deems better than all other locations of land, and he promised this land to a man named Abraham and all his children for forever. This is why we've all heard the phrase the promised land. And the land we currently call USA is the land God promised to Abraham, and our cities and our mountains are actually the proof of it. And God promises that it will remain the most blessed land on earth as long as its inhabitants follow Jesus Christ. And if they don't, it gets cursed, destroyed, and given away to somebody else. So let's look at the fruits. Is the most choice land prospering, or is it being deteriorated and given away? If you're curious, enjoy the vids. If you're not, I'm sure I'll hear from you in the comments telling me how dumb I am. Either way, dig deeper, explore your city, and most importantly, explore your God. Ask him questions and study his word. Zombies, we're in Norwich, Connecticut. Welcome zombies. Today we're checking out Norwich, Connecticut. Very small town in Connecticut, but very cool and very obvious that this used to be a big, huge stone village at one point. So here's a look at a little aerial view of it off of the Wikipedia page. You can see it's quite beautiful. Pretty nice place, but just, that kind of rundown stone type stuff is what's going on there, which we'll take much deeper of a look at. And kind of the main central point we're going to look at is this building right here, which is the City Hall. And of course, when you read about the City Hall, it says that previous buildings were destroyed by fire. Surprise. Right here, built in 1870 to 1873. So a 3-year construction date, rapid construction of an incredibly gorgeous, super heavy stone building in a time period with no power tools. And there's this building right here. Whenever you see these towers completely flat on top, that means whatever used to be poking up off top has been demolished, has been stripped. And that's exactly what we read again right here. Of course, rapid timeline again, 1855 to 1857, 2 years. This is much bigger and much heavier than our modern day homes right here, and takes a much more expert skill set to build this type of a structure. And we don't really build anything like this nowadays. The weight of the stuff we build nowadays is nothing similar to this. But they're putting these up in 3 years with some strong donkeys and strong ropes. And right here, the building originally had a spire that was 200 feet high, but it was struck by lightning and removed in 1898. For some reason, they are constantly, over and over and over again, bringing down these towers and steeples. So there's the city hall, which is like the main stone structure, but then all the stone structures surrounding it are all very impressive, and they're basically all churches. And when you look into the ownership of these churches, it's not really American owned churches. These are like British owned churches. So when you look at this tower right here on the right, that one's actually still in, in this picture, how it looks right here still looks like that nowadays. But this one over here, this smaller one, has been completely demolished. And then here's another little look at it. And you'll also notice that there's this stone railing right here and this pillar that's also connected to it. And both of those have been demolished. And now there's just this strange bell arch sitting right there. Look at the Cathedral of St. Patrick, as they call it. Like I said, these are just all churches for some reason. Here's a look at the interior of it, just incredible arches, super, super high ceilings. And construction date, we get from groundbreaking to completed 1873 to 1879. So 6 years, a little bit longer of a timeline, but we would have a hard time doing this nowadays, if we could even do this nowadays. And back then, they were supposedly way, way, way less advanced than us. So how are we so advanced and we can't do this stuff in the timelines that are provided from back then? And then there's also this St. Mary's Church in Norwich, Connecticut. Another just huge, like there's so much stone castle towers in Norwich. Just supposed to be this little small village, but if you pay attention to what the remainder of it, what it used to be, tells a much grander story. And then we have the Carroll building right here, just a huge red brick building. And I'll show you this. So you can see how it has this strange slope that's clearly bearing part of the building over here. And then when you look at this picture right here, it's just, once again, a very odd slope coming down, which, if you're familiar with the mud flood, that's what we're looking at right here. But when the people constructed these, first of all, I don't think these were separate buildings when these people originally built this stone village, let's call it. I think we're basically just looking at one big superstructure. And so there's a foundation actually for all of the buildings that we see sitting on top. Not each building has its own individual foundation, but the village or the city itself has a foundation. And then we're just seeing little bits of everything that got built on top of that foundation, little bits of it poking up. And then we lay down grass here, we pave a road here, and so it looks like this. But if you pay attention, these buildings they're perfect, and they're perfectly level and extremely masterful and precise. And they would not be leaving strange hills and roads like this. That's a new dirt got laid down after disasters, burying much of this stone architecture. And now we got these weird paved incline roads that have these buildings partially buried running through these cities. I think we're more or less looking at something like this, where these were tremendously tall cities and dirt, burying them quite a bit, to where these little sections are what we have poking up. And that's what we currently inhabit, is the tops of these old stone cities. This is an old picture of Norwich. It says 1900 era, says this is Main Street. And it looks nothing like this now. But you can see that there's actually stone right here and some tracks running. And so, if everything gets buried and we're over here somewhere, like this walking area right up here was probably paved with stone. And so I think we might just be looking at buried up until that point. And then now what they've done is gotten rid of the train tracks, taken away all the trains, put us all in cars, and laid black asphalt down. And there's some areas where you can see underneath the black asphalt still some of the old stone right there. Like this right here is in Topeka, Kansas. This is right outside of the Capitol building, and you'll see the stone underneath the black asphalt in several sections. And if I'll just let it play here and pan up, and boom, there's the Topeka, Kansas Capitol right there. And reading a little bit more about the fires that have demolished things, a major fire in the downtown in 1793 encouraged a shift to brick construction, which this was all stone previously. And there's several times in these stories that they tell where brick and stone buildings were completely demolished by fire. But here they're kind of hinting at, oh, well, there was a fire, and so we needed to build with a material that was more fire resistant, like bricks. They're really just made up stories, their lies, and this architecture, this stone, all these stone buildings in our cities all across the country and the world were built by advanced ancient masons who had advanced machinery and all of that. That's really what the trick is. The trick is they lie. The trick isn't aliens or anything like that. The trick is just like there's a group of people that lie to us about what these buildings actually are, and part of that is lying and telling us we're the most advanced when we're probably the least advanced, and civilizations prior to us had machinery, had technology, all of it. And of course, also some huge stone mills that are just so much red brick, super heavy and very run down and out of use. Also, all these little stone walls like this right here, if you pay attention as I show you driving around the city, those little stone walls are everywhere. And I really do think this is like one huge super tall structure. Like it's all one same structure. And now we've just paved and laid down grass and all that stuff in different areas of it after it's been buried. And so it appears like it's all just separate buildings here and here when it's really just all one huge structure. And you can tell right here, like the arches on the buildings are like just disappearing deeper into the ground as you go on, and it just doesn't make sense to construct that way if you're that masterful at building with stone. You can see there's even more stone sitting back here. Like just everywhere you look in this city, in this village, is just stone. Even this wall back here is just a huge stone wall. The whole thing everywhere is stone. And then here's driving through a neighborhood and some of the houses, and these are all also stone houses. They've been, there's some plastic siding on them and stuff, but they're all stone houses. See, like right here, you can tell that this one's stone. Then you can see the stone walls sitting out in front of it. And I want to show you this little section right here is just a big stone wall that I'm standing on top of right here. But in many other places, like when you see this type of stone, that would be called a hill or a mountain. But you can obviously tell that this is ancient stonework right here. But a lot of our mountains and hills all across the country are exactly this, just old stones that have been stacked by ancient men sitting in a ruin and they're in roughed up shape. And this building right here, right about here, I showed you previously, there was a smaller tower that they stripped off. And then if we pan down a little bit more to the side right here, you can see there's this window right here that's been completely bricked in. And then you also have this cool area with a lot of different stone wall right here. And it's nothing now. Like, I don't even think they really say it's a proper park, but again, just ancient stone walls everywhere you look in this city, right across from this castle. I mean, it's tremendous. The architecture in this city, Norwich, Connecticut, really surprised me. It was a really, really fun visit.